He casts Siren Stormtamer. Animar triggers and, in response, Chris casts Rending Volley targeting Animar. Heartwood Storyteller triggers and, in response, Cobble sacrifices Delighted Halfling to activate Baron targeting Ob Nixilis. In response, Chris casts Deflecting Swat for its alternate cost targeting Baron's ability. Roiling Vortex and Heartwood Storyteller trigger. Each opponent draws. Cataract Parasite triggers 3 times, deals 1 to each opponent. Ob Nixilis triggers 3 times, gets 3 counters, and Chris exiles Gemstone Caverns, Reckless Fireweaver, and Underworld Dreams. Then Chris takes 5 damage through Volley. In response, Cobble cracks his Misty Rainforest and pays a life. Ob Nixilis triggers, gets a counter, and Chris exiles Necropotence. Then Cobble fetches up a Taiga onto the battlefield. Lotus Cobra triggers and he adds a blue. He casts Crop Rotation, sacrificing Taiga as an additional cost. Heartwood Storyteller triggers and in response, Chris flashes in an Orcish Bowmasters. It enters, targeting Baron. In response, Cobble activates Baron, sacrificing Fauna Shaman, targeting itself. Baron bounces, Bowmasters fizzles, each opponent draws from Heartwood, Cataract Parasite triggers twice, and Bowmasters triggers twice. Chris targets Lotus Cobra with each Bowmaster trigger. In response, Cobble megamorphs Kadeena's Silencer, turning it face up and getting a 1/1 counter. It triggers, countering all opponents' abilities. Still in response, Chris casts Deadly Relic for its alternate cost, targeting Lotus Cobra. Roiling Vortex and Heartwood Storyteller trigger, each opponent draws, Cataract and Bowmasters triggers 3 times, Chris pings Heartwood Storyteller 3 times, killing it, Chris amasses 3, each opponent takes 1 from Cataract Parasite, Ob Nixilis triggers 3 times, gets 3 counters, and Chris exiles Bergy God of Storytelling, Wheel of Fortune, and Emergent Zone. Then Chris takes 5 through Roiling Vortex, then Deadly Relic exiles Lotus Cobra. Crop Rotation resolves and Cobble fetches up a Guy's Cradle onto the battlefield. Then SWAT resolves and Chris changes the target of Baron from Ob Nixilis to Dockside. Dockside bounces, then each opponent draws from Heartwood, Cataract and Bowmasters triggers 3 times, pings Kadeena's Silencer once, and Rex twice. Rex dies, Chris amasses 3, then Cataract deals 1 to each opponent. Ob Nixilis gets 3 counters, and Chris exiles Vampire Tutor, Imperial Recruiter, and Mana Crypt. In response to Rending Volley, Cobble flashes in a Spell Stutter Sprite. Animar triggers and gets a +1/+1 counter. It enters but doesn't counter Rending Volley. Then Rending Volley deals 4 damage to Animar, and since Cobble added the last counter, it doesn't die. Then Animar's other trigger resolves and gets another counter. And finally, after all of that, Siren Stormtamer resolves.